this prayer to you, O Lord, this day. Bless mothers everywhere, some here, some gone away. Let her be assured her legacy endures. Now we honor you, Mother always true. And by the way, I love you too. Help her, Lord, to be all she needs to be. Give her the strength she needs to raise her family. May her days be long and her heart filled with song. Lead her to a place, guide her with your grace, comfort her and keep her safe. May her days be long and her heart filled with song. Lead her to a place, guide her with your grace, comfort her and keep her safe.
What a great song. What you probably don't know is Tommy wrote the lyrics to that song today. Sat down this morning, took that very familiar hymn, Celine Dion, and he wrote words to honor moms. So Tommy, thank you for that song. Jay, thank you for singing it and blessing our hearts with such a wonderful song today. Mother's Day. Wow, it's always been one of my favorite days of the year. I can remember as a little boy at Flat Rock Baptist Church, Mother's Day. The mother with the most children would get to stand up, and all of the children, there were 5 of us, we'd all stand up. There was another family with 5 and another with 5, and then one year one of them had another one, so we didn't get to stand up after that. But I remember the hats. I remember the great time, the flowers that were pinned on as we honored moms. When you think about moms in the Bible, there's a lot of ways we could look at that. I've chose one today that you probably are familiar with, but there's some things about it you may not remember. Proverbs chapter 31. When we think about Proverbs 31, most of the time we think of a woman at a funeral, an elderly lady who's lived a good life, and we use the characteristics for it. But I want to tell you this. This last chapter of the book of Proverbs is attributed to King Lemuel's mom. This is her advice to her son on how to find a spouse. what kind of woman to look for. We're going to read it, and then we're going to talk about it. The sayings of King Lemuel, Proverbs 31, an inspired utterance his mother taught him. Listen, my son. Listen, son of my womb. Listen, my son, the answer to my prayers. Do not spend your strength on women, your vigor on those who ruin kings. It's not for kings, Lemuel. It's not for kings to drink wine or for rulers to crave beer, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed and deprive all the oppressed of their rights. Let beer be for those who are perishing, wine for those who are in anguish. Let them drink and forget their poverty and remember their misery no more. Speak up for those who can't speak for themselves, for the rights of those who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. And here it is. A wife of noble character, who can find? She's worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good and not harm all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She's like the merchant ships bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it's still night and provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her task. She sees that her trading is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hands, she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy, and when it snows, she has no fear for her household. For all of them are clothed in scarlet, and she makes coverings for their bed. She is clothed with fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies the merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, as he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor for all that her hands have done. Let her works bring her praise at the city gate. Now, these last verses from 10 through 31, they are an acrostic in Hebrew. It means every verse starts with a different letter of the Hebrew alphabet. All of the Jewish children learned this. I feel that King Lemuel's mom gave him this when she gave him advice on how to be king. She told him that he was we read it was inspired, but she tells him, you are what? The answer to my prayers. So she had prayed for him before he was conceived. She prayed while she was pregnant. She prayed, and now she wants to give him words of advice. I think every mom needs to do that, give words of advice to their children, and especially to their sons, and they need to let them know about life. And who better to talk about your future spouse than your mom? Wow. He was taught by his mom. This little acrostic known by all the Jewish kids, they probably aspired to be that kind of woman as they grew up, and all the boys were thinking, wow, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a wife like this? It was a standard of Olympic proportions for sure. Advice to Lemuel is first listen. Don't be a drinker, don't be a sot. Don't spend your strength, your energy on women who will waste your life and bring a king down. Be an advocate for those who are poor and needy. Speak up for them. Always judge fairly, she tells him. Defend those who need defended. But here it is. Words to a son about his choice of a mate. So, moms, Here's what the Bible says you should aspire to. First, a mom needs to have a wife, needs to have, every female needs to have, and face it, guys, you need to have it too, a noble character. She tells him that it's worth more than money. Kings had money. Isn't it easy to see people who get caught up with their money? I find it amusing that those who have won the lottery, some of them are broke within a couple of years. Some of them want to give that money away, and there are companies who will take it because it has destroyed their lives. You see, your character is much more important than stuff. A noble character. That's what she wants for her son to marry. Her goal is to bring her husband good. So she must live good in an upright manner. That's what his mom says. She has to be a woman who's industrious. She earns respect by the work she does with her hands. She makes stuff, weaves, makes clothing. What's that old saying? Knit one, purl one. Have no clue what that means, but hey, we've heard it, haven't we? I used to watch my grandmother crochet, do needlepoint. She was always doing something. When I went in to visit with them, I would always be kind of sad if she was sitting there doing that, because that meant there wasn't a lot of food being fixed. It says, choose a woman who's not lazy. Moms, during this COVID-19 time, I bet you don't have a whole lot of time to be lazy. Doing homework, making sure the kids are keeping up with their work, making certain that you're cooking. They're telling us that people are eating a whole lot more at home because you can't go to restaurants. You can't go get everything you want anymore. It takes more time. I heard a guy comment the other day. He said, his wife said, if we don't get back to school, it's just going to kill me. Now, my mom had 5 kids. Think about that. How many kids do you have? How much time does it take? Can you imagine? My dad, there were 9 children in his family. She says, son, you need to choose a wife who will provide meals and do those things around the house, but she needs to be smart financially. And in her smartness financially, she needs to open her stuff up to the poor and not be selfish in what she earns or what she makes or what she does for you. She needs to have an open heart, because our credence is gained by the actions that we take that people see. And it gives respect to the husband, to the children, and to the mom when our actions reflect the character of our lives. Isn't it amazing? She says strength and dignity will be what your spouse should have. When she speaks, E.F. Hutton will listen. Y'all remember that ad? Some of you do. Your children will respect you when you're that kind of woman. A woman who fears the Lord. But get this. She says you want to choose a woman that you don't know it right now, but when she gets older, she's not going to be distraught when the years catch up with her. She's not as young as she once was, and her get up and goes done got up and went, and her wrinkles will reflect it. But even then, it doesn't get her down. It's a process of life. And so his mom says, son, when all of this is going on, you need to honor her. So dads, are you honoring your wife? Are you honoring her? Children, are you honoring your mom and respect her? Now, I grew up in a different era. And in my dad's house, none of us would have ever talked back to our mom or disrespected her. We didn't have to have our dad to tell us that. We did it naturally because she had earned that respect. And sometimes, moms, I know that in this hectic world we're in, sometimes you feel like you aren't getting the respect that is due you. I'm sorry for that. Maybe we as men sometimes overlook that. As children, sometimes we've learned bad habits. We need to do things for you, moms. Not just when you ask us, but volunteer. So children, do something for your mom. Husbands, do something. Maybe something you don't normally do to help. Now, it won't be the way she does it, but she will take notice of that. And so, moms, you're saying, wow, I'm not that kind of woman. Can anyone be all of that? I don't think so. I don't think that it's humanly possible for every woman to have every trait that King Lemuel's mom talked about here. I don't think it's possible with all those little Jewish kids that were learning this acrostic poem when they were in school. I don't think all of them ever felt they could do it all. But you know, even though you can't, doesn't mean you shouldn't try. And there'll be things you do better than other things. The deal is to try. You see, if you don't try, you certainly will fail. Should you say, no, I'm not going to be these things, then let me ask you this, what are you going to leave out? What's not important out of Proverbs 31? Go back and read it carefully and say, well, a woman doesn't need to be that. Or I don't want my mom to be this, or a husband say, I don't really think that's important for my wife to be. Well, you'd have to ask yourself, what is less important? Because they all are important. What about moms? Are there some things in here you just don't want to do? That's a toughie, isn't it? Selfish things that you don't want to bother with. We realize not everybody's good at the same things. Wouldn't life be boring if we all were identical in that purpose? Wouldn't it be tough to be in a church where everybody was identical? We all sang like Jay, we all played like Tommy, and we all would get mad because we couldn't sing every Sunday, or we couldn't do this or that. Or let's just say if a church was filled with people and everybody wanted to preach every Sunday. You see, sometimes there are things we don't want to bother with. And sometimes there are things we most admire in people and we never tell them. This is a day when you tell moms what you love them for. A mom's challenge to her son, she says to him at the end, she says, look, you watch her, you observe her, you take note of her, and you honor her, and you respect her, and you be thankful for her. Because while you're sleeping, she gets up and gets some meals ready. Wow. Some of us know what that's like for our spouses to do that. You see, here's what his mom was telling him. There's a lot of things your wife does that you don't have a clue until she's not around. So maybe you should do this experiment. Moms, what if you took the week off? Left your husband, all your children, to fend for themselves for a week. I would bet you one thing. At the end of that week, they would honor you more, respect you more, and go, wow, You do all of this? Huh. Isn't that something? Wouldn't it be something to realize if you could just put it in a notebook, everything that moms have done this year? Things you didn't have to do. So children, before you sit there on the couch and you ask her to get you another glass of water or another drink or another cookie, think about getting up and getting it yourself. And think about asking your mom, Mom, can I bring you something? Would that make a difference? I bet it would. You see, all of us enjoy doing things for people when we know they appreciate it. But none of us like to be taken for granted. King Lemuel's mom is saying, you choose this kind of woman and don't take her for granted. That's our word today. Mother's Day 2020. You see, we can't be together and we can't give out flowers or presents for our moms. We can't honor them and have them stand before us like we would love to. But we can honor them in the sanctuary of our home where we are in our worship time. I hope that you're listening to our services, our Wednesday nights, our Sunday schools. Hope you're listening to it as family. And parents, I hope you're listening to it with your children for Miss Brenda's lessons and for Christy's lessons. I hope you're doing that. And on Wednesday night when Miss April brings our missions, I hope y'all are sitting down with your children so that this will be a good time for all of you to have family worship. When we have children's church and children are in another building worshiping, a lot of times we don't get to worship together. Isn't it wonderful? Mother's Day. And by the way, Schoolhouse is doing a big outdoor meal today on Sunday for Mother's Day. Keeping social distancing and everybody's eating outside. You can go through the buffet and go outside. Be a great time to take your mom out, your wife. I would be surprised if King Lemuel's mom had not had a lot of conversations with him about the kind of woman he should choose. Because you see all of the difference in the world in your life as a husband and in children in your lives is your mom. God made it that way. Honor her, respect her, thank her, let her know how much you appreciate her. Father, we love you. Thank you for loving us. May this be a wonderful day of celebration. And may we really understand and appreciate our moms. Thank you for their influence. And Father, help them never to grow weary in well-doing. And help them never to think that what they do is in vain. But help them to understand that you guide them all the way. Help this to be a day when we reflect upon those that we love. For we pray in your name. Amen. Tonight, I'm just going to sit with you for a little while and we're going to talk about our moms. Some of us, our moms, have gone on to be with the Lord. And we're going to do a little reflection on our moms. Join us tonight, would you, for our evening service. God bless you all. Looking forward to getting back together. I hope it's not going to be too long. And let me tell you, this computer stuff is for younger people, but